What's going on, guys? My name is Trey Sarmento, and today we're going to be doing some video breakdowns. Myself, I'm a filmmaker editor over at Drop Creative. This project was done under them. Check the link below to see some of our past work and stuff that we've done. For this first project, it's a music video for our good friend Mersiv. It's called Get To You. It's actually a remix of another song. But with that being said, let's jump into the breakdown. One thing I wanted to mention before we jump into all of this is if you haven't watched the Get To You music video by Mersiv, I highly recommend watching that before we jump into this, just so you're not lost or wondering what we're even talking about. So starting off with the crew, I worked with an amazing crew. It was Jack Anderson directing it alongside myself, director of photography, and then our location manager, and then everything assistant, camera to director, Blibeche. And then the two talent that we worked with, our choreographer, Jodie, Randolph, and our dancer, Dorka, Fetter, really made it all possible. So without them, I don't think any of this would happen. So big shout out to them. So let's talk a little bit about the location and how this kind of came to be. So the initial concept, our artist, Mersiv, and his management team, shout out to Mindwarp Management, approached us with a very simple concept of, hey, we really see a ballerina to this song. So we were like, okay, cool, I can definitely see that. It's more of a flowy, beautiful type of song. So we took that and started workshopping a couple locations that could fit with that, because there's endless locations you could put a ballerina to do a dance in. So we got to thinking, and we had a connection, our friend Andreas, who has a connection to a warehouse. And the unique thing about this location was that we had free reins throughout the whole warehouse. During our location scout, we were walking around like, man, we have so much space to play around with. What exactly is available here? And he kind of looks at us with a confused look and is like, everything. Like, we're good to go. Like, we have everything. So there's like hallways to office spaces to big open rooms to stairwells, you name it. So that was a really big turning point, I think, in our creative process with this whole thing, just because we had the free reins to this whole warehouse, as to normally when you get a location, you're confined to an office space or like one single corner of this big warehouse or what it may be. So we got really blessed in that sense and shaped it into what it is now. So with us having the free reins of this whole warehouse, we were able to then plan out and kind of go back to the drawing board with our creative idea on how this music video was going to flow, and actually plan out A to B route, if you will, throughout this warehouse. So our dancer would kind of flow throughout this whole interchanging warehouse. So let's talk a little bit about the process of this video. It was all shot in a day, which was remarkable. And then, if I remember correctly, it was in January, and we're in Michigan. And normally, if you guys don't know, it is freezing during those months. So being in a warehouse with little heat, if any heat, trying to make this thing happen was no easy task. Especially with that being our dancer wearing nothing but socks or ballerina style shoes, which to my understanding are basically just socks. So again, shout out to Dorka for toughing it through and probably freezing your feet off for this 8-hour shoot, probably even more. So again, thank you. So a little bit about the shot process in making this happen. We decided to go hardest shots to easiest. We like to practice this method in our productions just to get the hard stuff out of the way, so then we're not working up towards something that we're dreading or just really not looking forward, or just having time, so then if stuff does go wrong, we have the rest of the day to circle back and make it right. So shot hardest to easiest, and made it work that way, which was kind of close to sequential, but there was definitely a couple things that we flipped around. So for music videos, you're generally in front of the artist, running through their songs multiple times. For this music video is a little bit different in the case that our client, or our artist, if you will, wasn't even on set. So we were basically relying all on our dancer and our choreographer as our artist, so to say, for this music video. With that being said, we ran through it and treated it just as such as any other music video, where we played through the song and kind of had her dance to the song and ran that time and time again in each location so that we got everything that we needed in each location. So really the same sort of thing as if someone were to be performing in front of the lens, doing their thing that way. So we shot this on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K, it's always a mouthful, and the trusty rusty 18-35 Sigma, and the Rokinon 8mm for some of the shots, just to give that super wide, because when you're shooting on the Blackmagic, the sensor on the 35mm crop is a little detrimental, and you can't sometimes get as wide as you need. So the 8mm comes in handy for those types of shots. As far as stabilization, this whole thing was pretty much shot on a gimbal, that being the Zhiyun Crane 3S, that can definitely take the weight of the Blackmagic and the heavier Sigma lenses. With that being said, it's never an easy feat balancing the Blackmagic because it is the weirdest shape, plasticky blob of a camera, so that's always a fun time running the gimbal. With the Blackmagic, I kind of regret it every time that a project calls for it, just because it is the biggest pain in the butt to get it all configured and balanced, because we are running V-mounts, then you have to attach that to the bottom of the ring of the gimbal. It's a whole process. So a couple of these shots were actually done. I wanted to bring this up just because I thought it was really neat and really cool to see day of on set, was the use of roller skates. So our director, Jack Anderson, is actually, back in his day, a very talented extreme rollerblader. He hopped on the skates and I gave him the gimbal, and he booked it down some of these big open warehouse corridors, get these really dynamic shots of Dorka as it's just zooming right on her. Something that you wouldn't normally be able to achieve unless you're just booking it running with your gimbal, like shh, and hoping the shot works. So the roller skates were a super cool addition. Alright, so I wanted to jump in a little bit on how we lit this piece, because it was such a vast open space. We did have some fun and some challenges with the limitations and the lighting that we had. This music video was definitely a small crew, being only 3 people on crew. We were definitely blending and molding into all different positions. That's kind of what generally happens when you have a bigger crew like that, to just pick up where is needed. So we were filling in as Gaff and Electric and our other roles that were needed on set. So for this first scene, it was up in the attic, and we had a couple existing lights in that attic that were actually really cool, and thankfully they weren't giving off any flicker for the frame rates that we were shooting at. So we used those in the sense of right here that's kind of bleeding onto her, and then I believe there's one up top here kind of shining down, giving her this nice little rim light, if you will. Now we also had a couple Luxley cellos on hand, which are full RGB lights, to where we stuck one way back here kind of shining out, and then one right up to the front right here shining right onto our subject. So given that nice warm cool contrast between the 2 lights here, one being already existing playing into our favor, and then the 2 additions of this red light kind of giving this super strong sci-fi kind of look to the piece. And not to mention, shout out to this jukebox that we found on set somewhere tucked away in this warehouse that probably had like 20 plus years of dust on it. So it's always fun when you find little props on set like that that just kind of play into your pieces. So this next scene here, kind of moving on through the video slowly but surely, this is transitioning from the attic to kind of moving our way through the warehouse, if you will. This lighting setup is fairly simple. We had just a main soft source shining down right here, and we actually flagged it off on either side here so that it wasn't spilling too much into these, and she could kind of walk into this light as she danced or made her way through frame. I think it worked really well, and again, this is just a very cluttered old room that we found in the warehouse that we thought would work well to add as a little piece in there. So again, moving on through this warehouse, this is more of the beginning scenes where it's more the intro leading up to the drop, if you will, of the song. She comes out this doorway here, landing on this door right here. Behind camera, we actually have someone just holding up a tube light of sorts, probably about 10 feet back, just shining down, giving her a little bit of fill here onto her face and body, and then the rest kind of falling off into blackness here. I kind of liked this exit sign here. We had the option to get rid of it just with some black duvetine. Great to always have on set, by the way, in case you need to black off any windows or cover any exit signs like this. But I made the creative decision to keep it in the shot just because she's kind of leaving this whole dark void, if you will. So kind of a little homage to getting the heck out of there, if you will. So jumping into one of our main hero shots here, this is kind of where the majority of Dorka's dance takes place throughout the video. We had huge open windows in this main kind of corridor of the warehouse. As I just mentioned in the scene past, duvetining out windows. We chose not to simply because that would have just taken a lot of duvetine and a lot of hours, and we simply just didn't have that kind of time. Plus the backlight and the cool light that the January gray day was giving off that day looked kind of nice, and it was like a nice blend between the two colored of lights that we're using. So with the natural light bleeding in here, giving this nice blue. We have another window right over here bleeding in, giving a little blue here as well. So we had a Lico blasting onto her, which is a very warm tungsten light. Right here in the shot, I chose to shoot it in the shot just because this is a warehouse, things are cluttered, it kind of plays to this urban vibe, if you will, and we had it on a high rolly here that was kind of metal, and it fit the part. So I decided to shoot around it. We were kind of jumping all around in frame, so it would pop into frame from here or there, but I didn't really mind it or chose to get rid of it. Along with this Lico right here, we also had another one just off frame here, shining, giving her just a little bit more fill. Because the Lico that is in frame here is kind of acting more as a rim light onto her. So that was the lighting for that scene. Again, it's a mix of a warm and cool light, the warm light being our subject, just really popping her out and separating her from that background. So this is the roller skate shot. This is where Jack looked at me and popped on his roller skates and was like, yo, give me the gimbal. And I was like, sure, we got insurance, why not? So he popped them on, and this warehouse was huge. I mean, it was thousands of square foot, so he could get going really fast on his rollerblades and just sit there and coast and get this super smooth shot right up to Dorka here as she stood there. And again, it played into this just really cool effect that I don't think you'd be able to get just walking on your hands because of the sheer speed of the rollerblades. Again, with the lighting on this, we have these windows here casting just all natural light. This shot, because it is so wide, we didn't have a chance to kind of add in any lights or any fill to her, but because this is such a short shot and kind of a filler shot, if you will, I don't think it really mattered. So we did end up doing a full performance scene in this same style of setup of the rollerblade shot. This one, we ended up adding a little bit of haze in it just to separate this lighting and kind of get her to pop out from that background again that much more. We had, I believe it was some diffusion on either side here, just blasting a little bit of this light that we're getting spilling in from these big old windows here, just to fill her in the slightest bit. You can see here it's kind of just doing a little bit. Again, this shot is so wide, we didn't have the chance to really bring anything close into our subject to get that effect. So moving into another location throughout this music video, this was in a new room now than our hero shot room. This one was actually taken on top of a ladder looking down at Dorka as she did a performance, mainly because I really thought that these lines here coming across were super engaging, and I liked how it just kind of honed you in on this particular scene here. As far as the color too, real quick, I just wanted to mention that I did blend a darker, cooler tone into the edges here, again just to center everything down and focus your attention right into Dorka for these shots. So this is actually in the same room as the frame before. You can see here the lines here kind of on the ground there. We walk into this room and the lights are already on, and we're like, oh my gosh, are these just Titan tubes hanging from the ceiling? Was there like a gaff team already here getting ready for us? Because these lights up here, as you can see, are perfect tube lights that didn't flicker. The company that was installing those or doing the construction at the time chose to go with the right style bulbs. So shout out to whoever designed this warehouse. You chose the right lighting. That being said, we didn't light this scene at all and just relied on the practical lighting that was available to us because it was so bright, and it was cool to be able to shoot into these as well for these low angle shots. Here's another cool shot. This is probably one of my favorite frames of this project. Just the overall contrast, and I think her just powerful stance in this particular scene of this dance is really cool. Again, this is the Licos shining in on her, give her that nice even lighting, that color balanced skin, just on her front side. And then we have this big open window right here shining in, just giving this daylight balanced light, giving a nice daylight rim coming across her backside there. Again, with the background being a little bit more cool, she separates that much harder and just pops that much harder when it's being viewed. I said the last frame was probably my favorite, but I would say that ending shot has to be up there as well. A combination of just her movements to the overall tone and feel of these last couple of shots really just hit home. This is back in that room like we were talking about before with these overhead lighting. But I did something again with the color grading of just darkening the edges here, taking the viewer's attention and just drawing it right into Dorka. I think will just really does something for this frame, because there is so much going on, from these pillars to the scaffolding in the ceiling here, that darkening those and kind of just honing your attention right into the center frame really just does a little bit. And that all comes down to post-processing in your color grade. Just those decisions can go a long way with what you're trying to convey in your overall production. But that's it. That's all I got for Mersiv's Get To You. I really appreciate you guys sticking around, and be sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more content. I will be doing more of these breakdowns on some of our music videos that we've done in the past, other short films, documentaries, fun little videos that we've done just for fun. So if there's a specific video you want to see me break down, leave it in the comments below. And until next time, peace.